Hello, all of you adult educators, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Dan Helms, and I'm with New Readers Press. I'm guessing everyone that's joining today is familiar with New Readers Press. I've been in adult education for about 15 years, and I've known Sara Gutting, I think, that entire time. So I'm happy to be able to host today to bring you a true professional adult educator, Sara Gutting, and everything that she's going to share with you. I'm going to let Sara introduce herself. The floor is yours, Sara.
Thanks, Dan. Hello, everybody. I'm so glad a lot of you put who you were in the chat window. It was so great to see a few familiar names, and I love to see where everybody's from. And that way it just makes it a little more personal. And if you want to jump off of your mute and come in and say something, you always are welcome to do that throughout. You can get in the chat window. Dan's going to be watching that, and you can get in there and say, hey, I just like to say something, and then he'll interrupt me and let us know that you want to interrupt or talk, or just interrupt me. Really, seriously, I'm the youngest of 7. I'm used to being interrupted. It's not a problem. Anyway, I am Sara Gutting, and I'm so excited to be with you guys here today because I love to talk about contextualized instruction. So here's a little bit about me. I'll just talk about a few things. The number one thing that I love is that I am celebrating 28 years at the Hamilton County Jail. It's a local small county jail, not too small. We have 400 beds, but north of Indianapolis, our big, Marion County, big Indianapolis city in Indiana. I'm just north of that in our county jail up there. I just resigned on December 20th. I cried for 2 days. Because it was my love. I loved it, and I loved working with those boys and sometimes the females when we had a class. And it was truly an honor and a privilege that I was able to do that for so long. I decided I wasn't ready to be done, as most of us adult educators are, and some of you out there know what I'm talking about. So I called a local program that I've worked with as well. And I said, hey, do you have anything at all that you, and she's like, oh my gosh, please come work with us. So I'm actually working as their instructional coach, just very, 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 very part-time. But I'm very honored that they allowed me to do that. But I'm working with some of their new teachers, some of their teachers that just are like, hey, I'm in a rut, I need something else. So I'm able to come in and do that with them, and I absolutely love it. It's a dream job. And then, because I can't stand not having students, they actually gave me and give me a couple students once in a while that just need a little extra to get the rest of that high school equivalency finished. Right now, I've got 2 gentlemen that I'm working with that are reading, have some reading struggles, and that's one of the things I want to talk to you about later on today. As we get towards the end of the webinar, I want to talk to you about how important vocabulary is and how we can use that in part of our contextualizing our instruction. So anyway, that is a little bit about me. You can see what else I do on there, but I want to go ahead and get started and keep cognizant of our time here. But I do believe we have a poll that's coming up. And so I've got a picture on the screen, and you should see something in this picture. And Dan's going to launch this poll. And I want you to answer the question. So which image do you see first? So just question 1. Do you see the small deer in the foreground or the large deer in the background? Which one did you see first? Which one did you see first? Dan, how will I see those when they come up? Because I know you're watching them.
When I hit end poll, you'll be able to see it.
I'll see them. Okay. I just want to make sure. Are people answering it?
They are.
Okay, good.
Apparently, they can already see the.
They can see the picture. It came up on the poll.
Yeah.
That's good.
It says we've got like 31 people that have responded so far.
Okay. Yeah, there's 39 on the total thing. So, I mean, I think we probably could be good, maybe.
Okay, so let me try to click in because it's been a while since I've done a poll.
And I know, so we're all trying this out here. Oh,
So,
look at that.
How's
Oh,
that?
and some people answered question 2. I should have made that clear. Okay. So the small deer in the foreground, large deer in the background. Okay, I want to close this out. So we saw 66% of the people, I think, saw the large deer in the background before they saw the small deer. That is really interesting. So why do you think, somebody unmute themselves, why would I put this up here when I'm talking about contextualized instruction? Why would I put that up there? Come on, somebody be with me today. 40 people on there. One person can answer that question. Why would I put this image to talk about contextualized instruction? Is anybody in the chat window?
Okay, so somebody in chat said field dependence. And somebody said, we all see things differently.
Yes.
Another answer, it shows how students perceive things differently.
I like that too. Okay.
Somebody said there's no microphone option.
There's no microphone on. Can they, oh, they can't talk. That's what it is. Okay, well, you can type it in for me. Exactly. I love that you guys did that from the student perspective. You guys were thinking about the student perspective, how we see things differently, how we might see this versus that, or, you know, I'm not getting it the way you're telling me, show me something else. I see this, for me, I like this because I think, for me, I see that dark deer. That's the HSC. That's the HSC. That's the TABE. That's the TABE Class C, whatever it is you're using. I got to go, 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 go. And I got to get that. And that's it right there, plain as day. But look what's bigger in the background. The bigger in the background is my contextualized instruction, hidden in the background, but nice and big. If I want to get to that HSC, it's important that we contextualize, target our instruction, meet the students where they are. And the way we do that is by contextualizing our instruction. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So now we're going to launch poll number 2.
Okay, and there was one more comment that just said, maybe we should all look at the bigger picture.
I like that.
And the poll, apparently, even though I entered it as 2 separate polls,
it came as the same one.
It only came up. Relaunch poll. Let's try this again and see if we can just do question number 2 this time.
Okay, but it didn't have the question on there, right? So I have to tell them the question, right?
Well,
oh no, that didn't work out right.
That didn't work. So let me.
No, sorry. Good thing. We'll just talk about it.
Okay,
so question number 2 is, what is contextualized curriculum to you? What does that mean? So question number 2 is, what does contextualization mean to you? Can somebody throw some stuff out there in the chat? I tried to pull up the chat window. Hang on.
Yeah, the second question just doesn't seem to want to answer. Or
that's okay. They're gonna show me some stuff
here.
in the chat.
There we go.
What? Did you get it?
Can you see it now?
No.
You can't see it?
No. It says untitled question. Don't we love adult educators, how flexible we are? Do we have any comments in the thing? Okay, I'm going to read some of these comments. Student-centered, keeps going away on me. That learning is applicable to everyday life, everyday life, that we meet them where they are, what is meaningful to them. Anybody else? Put new learning in a context students understand or can connect to their past, their experiences. Yes, exactly. Work experiences, life experience, whatever they had in their past. Exactly. And teaching skills, reading skills for high set reading subtests within a domain content area that is relatable to the student. Yes. Tie their learning to what matters to them. I love the word what matters to them. I love that. Teaching basic skills in context that connect students to real life in context that's meaningful to them. Anybody else? Let student apply new knowledge and skills to real life. Exactly. We can't just teach 2 + 2 is 4. I've got to teach what 2 + 2 = 4 in their real life context. Anybody else? Those were great. Excellent. That worked out even better, actually. Got some great comments. Okay, so now that we've kind of got a great idea about contextualizing curriculum, let's talk about where we start. Where do we start? And we start with exactly what you guys were saying, by knowing your students. Know your students first. What are their learning styles? What are their interests? What's their background knowledge that they bring with them? Do they have a job? Did they have a job? Do they want a job? Where are they in that? Do they have children? Do they have grandchildren? Where are they in their lives? We've got to know our students. If we don't know our students, we can't do anything else. First, know your students. Now we're going to play to their strengths. What are their strengths? If I've got a carpenter, what am I going to do? I'm going to start talking about things that are carpenter. And excuse me for anybody that might not appreciate this, but I was in a jail. And when I was doing math, especially percents or decimals, what did I talk about? I talked about drugs because it made sense to them. I brought it to them. I played to their strengths, but they also brought in some of their not so good strengths to kind of pull them along to some other things. But I at least got them a frame of reference. And if I didn't bring up, hey, if we were doing this drug, they always did, because it's what made sense to them. It's what brought them into the moment of what we were talking about. But contextualize based on their ideas and concepts of what they understand, what they know, what they can relate to. And then we're going to help create their path. Know your students, play to their strengths, create their path. I love those three things. Help create their path, where it's integrating employment skills, whether it is helping them become a better grandparent so they can read to their grandchildren, or maybe they just want to be an example for their children by being able to read better, get their high school equivalency. What is it that their path is? And I know there's always a lot of talk about career pathways, IETs, workforce experience stuff, employability skills. And we always have to remember that might not be where everybody is. Some people might have a different goal than employability skills or career pathway. And we have to honor that as well. We have to make sure that we meet them where they are, create our curriculum, our activities, and some of our stuff around that. Cool? Everybody with me? Know your students, play to their strengths, create their path. Three things. So what is contextualized learning? Exactly what you guys said. I couldn't have said it better. The idea that some students learn better with hands-on. We got to remember hands-on life activities, get them up moving. If any of you have ever followed me on any of my other workshops or webinars, I'm all about active learning, active learning. So whenever we can get them up and moving around, that's going to help them bring it into real world context, make it include some type of employability, even if it's just a little bit of it, if that's their goal, a lot of it. But this all helps create higher thinking skills. And it promotes us as teachers a way to push them up into higher thinking. I had to really talk to not necessarily staff that I'm working with now, but some other people, workshops and other things that they were just going, okay, we got to do this on the high set. We got to do this on the GD. We got to do this for TABE Class C. We got to know this. And they weren't being successful. Why weren't they being successful? Because they weren't bringing it into a real world context, and they weren't incorporating higher order thinking skills. If we aren't incorporating higher order thinking skills, we're just banging our head against a wall, because we're just getting them to memorize. We're getting them to just rote memory. We're getting them to just do it, cram it down their throat, get through the test, love you, bye-bye. And I don't know about you, but as a lifelong education teacher, that's not good enough for me. That is not good enough for me. I want them to be lifelong learners. And we do that by contextualizing what we give them and how we create our lessons, our curriculum, and the resources, these awesome resources that we bring in to help us. I went backwards, sorry. Why do we contextualize? You guys already said it. Applies to their lives. It makes things more relevant for them, and it keeps in focus. And if you know Malcolm Knowles, this is exactly what Malcolm Knowles will tell you. Malcolm Knowles, the father of adult education, the andragogy, don't ask me to say it. I can't say it. Andragogy, somebody can unmute themselves and tell me what it is. But it's the teaching of adults, not children, but adults. But this goes right along to what he says, makes it more relevant, it applies their knowledge to future academic pursuits. So we don't want to just say memorize a squared plus b squared equals c squared, just memorize it, get through the test and be done. No, because if they want to go on to something higher, they're going to need to know reasoning, not just what a squared plus b squared equals c squared is, but how to reason through a problem, a story problem, to figure it out and to be able to go on to higher academic skills, academic pursuits. It helps students to develop critical thinking and employability skills. We talked about that, and I want to bring up this behind every employer. If we click on that, and I'm not going to take the time to do it because I'm going to show you what's on there in a minute. That behind every employer, you can Google that. There's a whole website built around how we help implement employability skills into our curriculum. And one of the things that's on there, I know this is small. Don't ding me for having a very small handout because I know it's small. Okay, like get your readers on and just look really closely. But anyway, so it's got a lot of things on here. I want to get this guy off. How do I get that off of there? When I want that thing down, it wouldn't come down. And when I want it to go up, it doesn't go up. So I'm just going to read through these. But you can see how it has technology use, systems thinking, which I like, understanding and using systems. I'm all about systems. Communication skills. Do we teach communication skills in your class? Are you teaching communication skills? I believe I took this out of this webinar, but I have a traveling timeline that I do with my students. And that is when I bring in communication skills. They have to stand up with their team and talk about their timeline. It is so good. And they love it. And they have such pride when they're done that they did this and they were able to talk about it. I'm going to skip over to resource management. Look at it, says manages time. Do we teach that? The one that I love is manages materials. I had to go through my students' folders and say, hey, sit down with me for a few minutes and let's organize your papers. So our adult learners oftentimes don't have organized brains. That is a fact, not an opinion. That is a fact. Research states that our adult educators do not have organized brains because think about it. When we were growing up, a lot of us, not maybe all of us, but most of us were growing up, it was get up, make your bed, come down, get breakfast, brush your teeth, get your stuff ready for school, go to school, come home, do your homework, do your chores, help mom with dinner, do this after dinner, brush your teeth, go to bed, and do the routine again. We were taught routine, even though we didn't realize it. And in these employability skills, this is just as important for our students to do these type of things as it is to learn 2 + 2 is 4 or reading comprehension skills, because this is what's going to help them not only get the job, but keep the job. My dad always says it's easy to get a job. And in today's day, we can all say it's easy to get a job for a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot. Easy to get a job, but it is hard to keep a job. Our students need help in how to manage their time, manage their personal stuff, manage their materials, and helping them get that logical brain in place, that routine brain in place. And then there's critical thinking, and then you can see some that say work independently, applied, I can't even see what that says because my screen is blocking it. I can't get that thing off of there. I think it's applied knowledge. Is it applied knowledge? Applied academic skills. Oh my gosh, applied academic skills, reading, writing, and arithmetic, scientific principles. We do these. If we had more time, I'd have a handout and I would say, underline, put a check by all these things that you already do. You're doing these. What I want to do is I want you guys to start thinking about doing them in a systematic approach if we're not already doing that. Okay. This is on that website behind every employer. It's under resources. It's really good and I really like it. So how do we contextualize? We use examples from our students' own lives, have them bring in something. Do they have a manual from work? Have them bring it in. Tie in employability skills. Do they have a job? Bring that in. Use that chart from a minute ago that I just showed. That one was just on there. Use their own work experiences. Tie current events or news stories. We do that a lot already. Connect what you're teaching with other subjects. This is the big thing. I want us to make sure that we're not teaching. When we're teaching science, we could be teaching math and we can be teaching reading. So when I was at the jail, I can't think of a time when I didn't have a student not pass the language arts reading test. I don't think I ever had a student, not maybe one, and I can tell you a story about that if we had time, but it didn't pass the language arts reading. And the reason why is because I never taught language arts reading. I taught comprehension. I taught vocabulary. I taught higher order thinking skills, all within a contextualized curriculum. So I didn't have to worry about that. It was a section that I didn't have to worry about because I'm doing it in other ways. And that's our goal, is to be able to cross-curricular, is that the word I want? Cross-curricular everything so that science and math and reading can all be taught together. Social studies and science, because you can do, I'm going to show you these things that I just discovered, and they're like, oh my God, I love them so much. They're visual, I know it's backwards, but it's visual literacy, scales, charts, and diagrams, tables and graphs, maps and graphs. And I taught reading in science or social studies all within that. We don't have to do it in seclusion. It gets them through faster. It gets them to understand it better. And we're connecting those things to their own lives, to their work experience, to bring it all together in a great holistic approach. So I've talked for 21 minutes. What ways do you guys already incorporate your student experience in your classroom? What do you guys already do to incorporate your students' experiences, their work? How do you bring that into your classroom already? I want to hear from some people, and I'll take a look at the chat window.
I can allow people to talk, Sarah. So if somebody, I'm just going to go down through here and start clicking allow to talk. And if anyone has anything to say, just
okay,
feel free.
Gloria Hubbock has her hand up, I think. Can she unmute herself? It looks like she has her hand up. Oh, maybe that's you. Yeah, Gloria has her hand up.
Sarah.
Hi, Gloria. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Long time no hear.
No, I didn't, because I think I had my hand up a while ago and it just stayed up.
Do you have anything to add or anything to
But
say?
that's okay. Well, yeah, I've seen our teachers use several different things. Recently, I was part of a classroom session on just sharing about their first countries and being able to bring in foods that they cooked and, talk about that, or they were able to bring in whatever, and they, some brought in maps to show different parts and where they lived and so forth. And so, yeah. And then just one evening I was in a class and we started introducing ourselves, and then someone was curious about, they didn't know where Myanmar was, for instance. So we all went to the map and we and we looked, and then they wanted to show where they were from and so forth. So it just, it's so easy to do. And I think I've seen a lot of good things in our classrooms with teachers doing this.
Very, very good. And I knew you'd have some great examples, and it is so much fun with the ESL folks to bring in that contextualization. I happened to be in somebody's classroom the other night, a couple weeks ago, and I saw his ring, and I said, "Is that a medical ring?" And he said, "Yes, I was a doctor in Haiti." And he pointed to his friend and he said, "So is my friend over here." Then he got on him for not having his ring on, and he showed me these pictures. So I said to the teacher afterwards, I said, "We've got to bring that experience in to your teaching. These people are brilliant, educated people."
Are you still hearing me?
I am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I noticed some other things are coming in, so I don't want to take up much time. But when we first started at one of our industrial sites, the teacher just opened it up and said, "I'm gonna just pop into your head. What would you like to learn about while we're in here?" And she then began to develop the curriculum around their topics that they were interested in.
Very good. That's great.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Gloria. All right, let's look at some of this chat windows. There's a lot of stuff coming in.
My
Oh,
name-
somebody, oh, Danette, yes, yes.
Okay, well, I work, I'm not working there now, at the Elmhurst Adult Learning Center, which is in Queens, through the Queens
Okay.
Library.
Yeah,
And a lot of people don't know that that is one of the most eclectic areas, not just in New York, but countrywide. And my students were pretty much intermediate students who were immigrants. And what we did a couple of times was similar to what Gloria said. We had a eat-in, but the students weren't allowed to bring in foods from their own country. They had to research somebody else's country and get to know about the the culture, etc., and prepare the dishes from whatever country they were researching. So it was a learning experience for them to share the different foods, but also to learn what other people would eat and the differences. And we also did one, I think, around holidays so that they could find out what other holidays are being celebrated other than the ones that we typically know that are American now.
I love that, Danette. Thanks for sharing. Am I saying your name right, Danette?
Yep.
Yep, that's great. That was great. Thank you so much for sharing. And I love that we have so many ESL people on here. This is really, really good. I'm going to read through some of these, just a few of these on. There's a whole lot on the chat window. You guys can, when I get really boring or something, you guys can look through some if I miss them. Connect to their, yes, connect to their past. Okay, wait, where am I? Link to the visual literacy paper. I'm going to show you those here in a minute. Yes. I like to use warm-ups to help students relate to the bigger topic. Yes, I love that. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The bigger topic and find their meaning. Yes, Anna, absolutely. What did I missed somebody up here. Ask questions to tell how what we are working on relates to, ask them that. Yes. How does that relate to you? What does this remind you of? What do you think of when I say X, Y, or Z? I like to use warm-ups. I work primarily with ESL adults. So I often ask them about their experiences in their home countries as opposed to here in the US. And they love to talk about it, don't they? They love to talk about it. And it also gets them talking. I love that. The KWL, if you don't know KWL, and KWL is in, I don't have it in front of me. It is in, I think it's underneath my book here on my computer. KWL, there's all kinds of stuff in KWL in this book. In fact, you can see how much I use this book. This is a literacy book, but it's got a KWL chart and it's got all kinds of activities in here. This isn't just a resource of, oh, let me teach you how to teach people to read. It's a resource book. And in the back is just all kinds of resources, reproducible pages. And then there's almost every page has an activity. Like this is activity 47. And this is also, there's also one of these for all my ESL friends on here. This says
Yes.
ESL.
Yes, Sarah,
Yes.
you introduced that to us at an earlier workshop, and I got the new every teacher has one, every para has one in
Yes.
ELL, plus anyone who comes in new to the program, that's the first thing on their onboarding.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, that was really loud. I'm sorry. Thank you. I've said there's the
I was so
ESL.
excited about that after you
I'm so
showed it and I
glad.
looked at it. I thought it was incredible.
I keep saying this is their best kept secret because they've got ESL, they've got one for GED, high set, they've got a math one, and there's all kinds of things inside it that are just like activities, and they're easy. They're not like, oh my gosh, I have no idea how I'm even going to do that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, that's
because in
okay.
the
I'm sitting
KWL
here
person-
nodding at you, Sarah, but you don't know that.
I can't see you.
Okay, I'm signing off again.
Okay, I love current events. We discuss real life experiences all the time. I love that. Let me show you. Okay, I see that one. Sarah's talking about, okay, got it. When you said students are not organized, I'm going to make students have a notebook and tape on each handout that they learn each day. Yes, GD students struggle to find and search for. Yes, isn't that the truth? And at one point, I thought it was just my jail guys, just because of the different environments that they, grew up in, and just where they are. But it's true of a lot of adult learners, and we've got to help them get organized. Math on one side, reading on the other side. I mean, whatever it is. So thank you for saying that. I appreciate that.
I think you missed
Okay.
one. I think you missed one comment from Fran, and Fran says, I had a literacy student take pictures of OSHA signs at work, which she printed, and they used that for reading practice.
I love that idea. I hope this little forum here gave you guys some great ideas, because I think you guys already know what you're doing. I'm not sure why all these people signed on to this, Dan, but I'm hoping I can give them some good resources. But that is a great idea, and we should be doing that with anybody who's got a job. Bring your stuff in. Let's talk about it, especially if this is a large ESL crowd we've got on here. That is a great ESL activity for them to do. One of our teachers, because they had she had a lot of women, and they were all talking about food one day, and the women were talking about all the stuff that they eat and make and everything. They made granola bars, and they actually took them down to the kitchen, because we have a kitchen area. They cooked these granola bars, and then one class just made like a trail mix, but they were learning measurement, and not necessarily so much, what's 2/3 plus 1/4, but just measurement. And it was so much fun, and it was great. And then they brought the director and assistant director down, and they actually showed them what they were doing, and they always showcase what they do. You ESL people are so much fun. Always have so much fun to do. Yes, I get you, Joe. It could only take them 10 minutes to find one paper. That has happened before. All right, I'm going to keep going. If you have more stuff in there to say, please do. I live by the 6-step lesson plan. I just had one of my ESL teachers. We had a meeting with me and 2 other ESL teachers are fairly new. And the one ESL teacher said to the other, how do you plan? How do you plan for this? And he said, well, I'm using her 6-step lesson plan, which I had also given the other teacher. She goes, really? And so he showed her how he kind of modified it, did the warm-up introduction, present, make sure they practice. You're going to do application almost always in ESL, and then evaluation can come that night or a little later. But he was following the 6-step. Obviously, we don't have time to do all of that today, but we're going to at least kind of touch on some of these with some of the things that I talk about. Joe, do you have your hand up?
I don't know what it is.
I'll give it to you. You can try it. If you want gravy, I can.
Is Joe talking to me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
But you're not talking to me, so that's okay. Your hand was up and you were unmuted, but that's good. Okay, so here's a couple things for warm-up and introductions. You can do this with your ESL students for a little more advanced. You can do it with your lower or your any of your HSC people, your GED, high set people, to get them introduced to writing. Let's start writing. These are from Teachers Pay Teachers. You can type in what would you do if, or what is the difference between, but they're a great writing activity or speaking activity. What is the difference between having fun at work and acting unprofessionally? That could be one of your questions. They could get together and talk about it, then they could write about it. They could come up with 3 things if they were going to write an essay. The difference between having fun at work and acting professionally are boom, boom, boom. I mean, they could do that. I like the what would you do ifs. There's an open position at a company that interests you. You have most of the required skills. However, you lack the necessary experience. What would you do? So what are you going to do? And it's a great way. These would take, 10 minutes to introduce writing, get their writing juices flowing. Because as we know, sometimes it's hard to get down, out your head, out of your brain, down your arm, through the pencil and onto the paper. It's hard for them to do that. But if they talk it out first and then write it, then that's going to help them get at least started in the writing. And then I didn't realize until recently, Dan, you were holding out on me. I thought there was only one of these. There's like 4 of these books that are practicing writing as they would see it on the test. It gives you those two articles. There's a GED one, I think there's high set ones too, but it helps them. It kind of gives them little, I don't know, I can't see what I'm doing. Gives them little things to help them. So get them started writing, move into something else. But a lot of times what happens as teachers, we go, here, we're going to practice writing, boom. No. We got to go a little bit slower into it for some of our students. And these are great speaking activities, contextualizing for your ESL people and for our ABE people, high set HSE people, GED people, whatever we're going to call them now, to get them speaking, writing, and thinking about employment skills. And then I want to show you this video. I know some of you have seen it, but I can't help it. I still use it. I just showed it to my teachers at Warren. I love it. It's the way I introduce writing better. I don't know how else to say that. Writing better. But I want to show you this. It's only going to take a couple minutes.
What did you do to my sign?
I wrote the same, but in different words.
Thanks, love.
Have anybody seen that before? I love that video. I showed it all the time at the jail. It was one of my favorite things because I would show that video and I would talk about the power of words, and that is some of our best, for my students when I was at the jail. That was the thing that they could do that would really help their case. So they would show me a letter they would write to the judge, and I would say, let's redo this. Let's kind of find some different words, because the power is in your words. If you want to make sure that this judge does X, Y, or Z, the power is in your words. So we would practice. I'd show them this, and then I would show them, I'd say, describe your personality, or what is your strength that you have? And they'd say something like, I'm really funny. I'm really funny. And I'd say, but how could we write that differently? So how could we write that differently? And then we would come up with some different ways, and together we would come up with this. I can always see the positive in any situation, and often when appropriate, I find the humor in it. Now, if I'm in an interview, that's more powerful. Not saying I'm really funny, I can, I love to joke around, I'm a very positive person, but how can we say it that would be impactful to the employer? So these are some of the things that my students, when I would say, write down something about yourself, your personality, or something positive about yourself, these are the things that they would write. I'm motivated, I work well with people, I'm a good worker, I'm energetic, I think I'm good for this job, I'm looking for a job that will pay me good money. I love that one. That's my favorite one. I'm looking for a job that pay me good money. So how would you, let's pick one or two of those. How would you rewrite those? Or how would you talk with your students about rewriting those and making it, bringing in that contextualizeness that might draw on some of their past experience, or some of that would make it real for them? Anybody have any ideas? Check my chat.
I am motivated. They might want to say, when I see a situation that needs to be corrected, I think about it, and then I go ahead and make changes that's going to benefit all of us.
Really good, Danette. And what you said was, it made me think of this student that might say that is, you might want to say, so, and I like somebody said, and that they need to give an example in addition to that. I'm energetic because, but let's take both of those together. Let's take Ann and Danette together and say, when on a job were you motivated? Or was that the one you picked, Danette? When on a job were you motivated? Or when were you energetic? Or when did you show them that you were a good worker? Now let's visualize what you were doing. And now let's see if we can write a sentence. Visualize what you were doing. And now let's try and write it. Take that to that next level. And I'm working with my guys that I'm working with right now, it's constantly about visual, because they said a few words to me and I thought, these guys are visual learners. Know your students. Know your students. So every time we start reading, I'll say, now I want you to visualize what you just read and give me that picture in your own words. Have them visualize, I work well with people. What does that mean to you? I like the, Giovanna said, asking them to include their job position or what they do with their job. Can you expand on that? Tell me more what you're saying with that. What do you mean? Was I asking too much to type?
Wait, I mean, we can ask the students to elaborate that sentence, to share, so show that they share their experience with their classmates, and letting us know what is the interest, what do they like from their job, so they start to express why they are motivated, why they work well with people, in what we can ask them for an example and give us or tell us about an experience with working with people. And I guess that also helps at the same time, not only for writing and also contextualize in particular job, but also to prepare them for a job interview.
Yes.
Because in a job interview, there are some questions like telling us about your experience with this or that. So I guess that is a big help for the students, and also for us as instructors, and for the classmate in the class, that a good relationship start between faculty, between classmates, and confidence for them.
I love that. And I like the fact that it's like getting them to kind of expand on that based on their experiences on the job, right? I think that, and that was a great way of including their job position. Tell me what you do on the job, and let's pull it together in a nice, for you guys speaking, and then for maybe the HSE people writing it down in a concise one sentence, making them write it down, because our students have got to do a lot of writing. And I think that that's a great way to bring those together. That was great. Okay, I'm going to keep on going because we've got 15 minutes left. I don't know if you've looked at these, and these are great for your ESL people, but these are these work-wise. This one is writing at work. I can open up anywhere in here, and it's teaching them it's teaching them how to write, but it also gives them like formal writing, appropriate writing, workplace notes, how to write notes. I mean, there's just a lot in here. I should read the table of contents to you on that one. That's probably better. The sentence and its parts. So you can do subject verb agreement as well. Subject and object pronouns, which is really good. Connecting sentence fragments. So if you are transitioning, especially into the HSE program, this is these are great little booklets. They're booklets. That one is that it's starting a job is also a good one. And then I should have said getting a job. So you got getting a job and then starting a job. So these are good. These are also really good for our ESL people as well. It's really good for those that are, for me at the jail, when I was trying to prepare them for transitioning out, we had a transition. We used some of these when we were doing writing, because why teach them subject-verb agreement in isolation? Why not teach them subject-verb agreement and how to get a job? I mean, doesn't that just make sense? And you don't have to recreate the wheel. It's all right here. You've got it all right there. Getting a job also, I wrote some that I liked on there. Learning to write a mission statement, which I thought was really cool. And I thought it'd be great for your ESL people to write a mission statement about themselves, about where they are, what they want to do. Starting a job, balancing pay and benefits. This was really awesome in the starting, and it was in the starting a job one, and it was with math. And I love that because we did that one time when my guys were complaining that they worked in the kitchen at the jail and they were getting upset because they were only getting $11 a week. And I know that sounds horrible. They got $11 a week. But when you looked at all the benefits they got from working in the kitchen, not just monetary benefit, because they got to eat as much as they wanted. They got like so many free snacks a day, which was a lot of money. They also got to be out of their cell block for 8 hours. They got other extra privileges that they could walk around certain areas of the jail unattended. There's a lot of benefits. So we balanced your pay versus the benefits in jail. The other thing we talked about with my students was the difference between when you have union pay and what all that gets you versus your non-union pay. And that's a great activity in here. So that was a really cool section in that starting a job book to teach when you're teaching math. Why not throw that in 10, 15 minutes worth? And then the writing at work had I just read to you the write on sentences fixing fragments, because my students all wrote in fragments. I think they thought they were writing a song. I'm not sure. And it was like, oh my gosh, we've got to fix all these fragments. So those are work-wise. And I really, really like those books. I use those, but not as much as I use some of these others that I want to get to. I want to get to this really quick. This is something I learned at CoABE, and I am in love with it. I am so in love with it. And I hope you guys like it. For those HSE people, or if you're transitioning from the ELL to the HSE classes, this was called Notice and Wonder. And then it moves into this slow reveal graphs. And I'll show you that in a minute. But the notice and wonder is you're basically asking them to become familiar with the image, look at it, what do you notice? And then start developing some of that content language around it so you can start building it in. I'll show you that in a minute. But then you're going to ask them, what also do you wonder? So if you notice this graph, tell me what you notice. Now tell me what you wonder about it. And these slow reveal graphs are great for all of these things. I'm not going to read all this. You can look at it, but it also gives you a sense of mystery, and it keeps their attention because you're trying to figure out, what is this graph telling me? So I want to get to these. So here was the first slide. So you say, what do you notice in this graph? Anybody want to throw out something? What do you notice? Oh, sorry. What do you notice in this graph?
It's on decline.
It's what?
It's declining, skewed right.
So you think it might be skewed?
It's skewed right. The first one on the left, skewed
Okay.
to the right, and that's the facts. But really, it's that something is declining.
Okay. What else does somebody notice? And the other thing that she also mentioned was that when we all you do is just ask them, and you don't really make a lot of comments. So you ask them what you notice. So what else does somebody else notice?
The graphs don't have any scale to them.
They have no scale to them. Okay, what else?
Couple of chat comments.
Okay,
One said, I'm sorry, one said, there's a pattern of decline, which, is what Joe was saying. And another person saying, this looks like a comparison between different things.
okay. And then I noticed that big blue line on the far right. That's what I noticed. And then it was in color and others weren't in color. So it's like, well, what's that about? So that's what I noticed. And that's what I wondered, what's going on? So do you get the hint? You get the idea? Because I'm going to keep going through this. Okay. So now it's going to show you something else. So now what do you notice and what do you wonder?
Years.
I notice years. What else do you notice and what do you wonder?
Years that are on the x-axis, and then
What else? Anybody else?
Somebody's saying by decades.
It's by decades. What do you want? Is there somebody that wonders something there? Because I wonder something. I want to
10
wait.
years in between.
10 years in between. At
Each
the
of the
end, it goes
bar- on
10
each of the
and then it goes
histogram.
22. The others don't have 22. So I wonder
Yeah.
about that.
Oh, yeah.
What's going on? Okay, I'm going to keep going for sake of time. Oh, now what do we got? Now what do you notice and what do you wonder?
Is it a
Susan wonders what,
comparison? Oh, I'm sorry. Is it a comparison of salaries or?
It might be a comparison of salaries. Okay. What were you going to say, Joe?
No, I agree. That's all.
Okay. Anybody else?
and Susan wondered what was the effect of COVID on this data.
Okay. What was the effect of COVID? What else? Anything else?
They
Okay.
all different trends.
It might be different trends. Is that what you said, Elizabeth?
It could be a comparison about remote jobs, remote working, how increased after COVID,
Okay.
something like that.
Okay. Good. So those are what we noticed and what we wondered. Now what?
No app, no title. Yeah, that's right.
Now what happened? Now what do we notice and what do we wonder?
Titles.
So what is it? Anybody got
Well,
to guess what this is?
no, we still don't have enough information, but it is in particular to each country, some kind of monetary
It's some type of monetary. Look at the very end.
data. Mhm.
Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think it might be when you look at the very end under 22.
Expenses in war, something. Military.
It is these are the top recipients of the U.S. foreign aid since 2010.
Okay.
So
I
now you see why that line was so high because of
Mm.
Ukraine in 2022.
Hmm.
So now you go through and say, what true statements can you make? And for sake of time, I'm going to just keep going here. You go through what true statements they can make. And then you can ask all these questions, and you guys are going to get this PowerPoint so you can see these questions that you can ask. So according to the graph, what? When I first looked at this graph, now I think, and this is a great Webb's depth of knowledge. If you know Webb's depth of knowledge, grab those question stems, start asking them some questions about that. I want to show you a couple more things real quick. So these books, I just discovered these with this. I'm so excited. I can't stand it. These books here that I've got showing on the screen, look at this. You've got, I'm going to do charts. No, I'm going to do graphs. So on the social studies and science test, there are a ton maps, graphs, and charts. There's just a ton of them. If your students don't know maps, graphs, and charts, they're not going to get an 8. They're whatever your score is. They're not going to pass. So you do the slow reveal graph, and then you go in here, and these questions are very much like what they would see on the test. According to this graph, who needs the least sleep? The biggest change in typical amount of sleep needed is how many hours of sleep does a typical 14-year-old need? Which region saw the greatest rate of change between 2006 and 2007? So here's what I want to show you. If you look at this link, slowrevealgraphs.com, you can get all of these slow reveal graphs in PowerPoint form. So go in there, find the graph you want, and then a little further down, it'll say slide forms or slides or something. Click on that. Now you've got the PowerPoint. That is how you teach graphs. Remember the 6-step lesson plan? This is how you practice graphs. That's how you practice, but teach, teach, teach. Break them up. Put a couple of them up, print them out even and have them up on the wall in different stages, and then have them doing this somehow, like in a round robin kind of thing. Get them up, moving around. You can do so much with graphs. I found this at COABE, and this was one of the best things I've ever gotten out of one of the workshops I've gone to. And I was so excited. I threw that in here real quick because I thought I've got to show these guys. And then these books that I had just discovered earlier, I'm like, oh my gosh, these fall right into place with that. I want to show you, I've got 3 minutes left. You're going to give me these 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Because of this, there's scales and charts, has things like job search, photosynthesis, and the water cycle, which is always on science. I wanted to talk to you how I contextualize my photosynthesis because it's fun and the guys always loved it. I would bring in cookies and I'd show them this diagram, this picture, and ask them which cookie they like the best. And then we'd start talking about chemical reactions of flour and soda or flour and baking powder. And from there, I would show them this book. If you can get it, I found it at Costco, but it's a Smithsonian, the elements in it. You open it up and look how contextualized that is. Copper. Where do you see copper in your life? Do you ever have copper? Which of these things do you use? They love this book. And it's about this thick. It's a great book. I think I took it to school, so I don't think I have it here. Sorry. But it's a great book and they love that book. Then I show them the periodic table. I talk about finding find hydrogen, find oxygen. We talk about H2O. And again, I'm doing this a little longer than what I'm doing in my 2 minutes I have. And then I show them photosynthesis. And then all of a sudden, this little foreign language to them makes sense. It has never failed me. And I love doing it do that slow progression of bringing in that contextualizedness. Does it have to do with employment skills? To me, what it has to do with employment skills is I'm showing them a methodical way to get to something, but it's contextualizing to their real life. When do you see water? When do you see glucose, which is sugar? What is oxygen? Let's pull these things together and show them how this stuff actually works in their real life by showing them the cookie picture. It's one of my favorite things to do when I was at the jail. We don't have time to do this activity. You guys are probably like, yeah, I'm so glad. These are, and you can see this is the floor of my bedroom because these are the books that I use. These are my favorite books. This Road to Work, I didn't talk about Road to Work, but it's also very good as well. But if you look at your TABE, D or M, these TABE mastery books, flip open almost any page and there's a contextualized activity right there, contextualized, all ready to go. I want to talk just a minute about vocabulary. I know it's 5 o'clock, but I want to talk just a minute about vocabulary. Please, 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 especially if you're HSE, do not underestimate the power of vocabulary in order to pass the test. My guys right now cannot get past vocabulary. If you can't get past vocabulary, if you all know your reading stuff, if you don't get past vocabulary, you can't get to fluency. If I don't get fluency, I don't get comprehension. These vocabulary books are great. They're also work readiness stuff, but they're just regular vocabulary books that you can give them to practice, put into sentences, have them look at where they find those words in the questions of the test, because a lot of these vocabulary words are on the questions, not necessarily in the passage. They're in the question and they don't know what it means. So I'm kind of leaving you with my question that I always ask everybody is, what is your favorite pie? Somebody shout that out to me. What's your favorite pie?
Apple.
Pumpkin.
Yeah. Pumpkin. Cherry. You already know. I'm going to quit here. My favorite pie is cherry. And the reason I end with this all the time is because Cherry is my comfort zone. I love cherry pie. I grew up with a cherry tree in my backyard. My mom made cherry pie that looked just like that, and cherry cobbler, cherry jam, cherry everything. And that is what I love. That is what I remember. That is my past experience. So if Gloria were to serve cherry pie in her room every night, I would go. But if Joe is going to serve pecan pie, that is too sweet for me. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. I'm not going to go. We've got to make sure that we serve every pie that every student wants, because that's what they have in their background. That is what they remember. That is their experience in order to bring them to the classroom every single night. So I leave you with that. I hope this was beneficial for you in our short little hour we had together. Here is my information. It'll be on the slides when Dan sends all this to you. You are always free to contact me, either email or my phone. I love talking to fellow teachers that have questions and just want to learn and want to help their students. I'm always available to you. So feel free to contact me. So thank you very much. I'll stay on for a few minutes if people have questions, but I want to be aware of your time and respectful of that. So thank you guys for all showing up. I appreciate it.